Welcome to lesson 2 of making music. In lesson 1 yesterday, 10th of July, and today's Friday, 11th of July 2008, we were talking about whole, half, and how a whole is made up of two halves. We called it whole step, half step, or tone, semitone. Semi meaning half. Okay, we want to further progress using this concept with these apples. Whole apples and half apples. Now, as you can see, I've drawn two full apples, a half one, three whole ones, and another half one. So what we've got, we're going to call it steps instead of apples. We've got whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and half step. We can also call these tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Like we were speaking down here, tone meaning whole and semi, half, tone. Now the reason for this, we want to use it like a way of walking or the way of steps. Now as we can see, a whole step or a tone is made up of two halves, and obviously we've got half, semitone. But if we look here on a piano, each step of the way, either going to the right or going to the left, has to be made up of something. So we're going to talk here about half. We'll just call it half for now, and then we'll start calling it semitone. So we'll start at the beginning here, and we show how the whole of the keyboard or piano is set out in half steps. So if I go from the D, and this time we're going to include the black ones, the black keys, okay? So we start here, and if we go from the D to the black, we're going half a step. If we then go from the black to the next one, half a step. And again, if we go from this E to this F, half a step again. Each way along up to the black, half step, 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 all the way along, all made up of half steps. If we want to come backwards, half step, half step, half step, half step, half step. Did you notice how we came? There's no black one in between here, so we just go to the next available key. And when I say key, the ones that you press down, the blacks or the whites. So we go half step, half step. So it's half steps the whole way along, and wherever we start from. You can start from here, half step, half step, of course, half step. But they're also called semitones. So we'll start again, from here to here, semitone. 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 From here to here, from here to here, semitone. From here to here, semitone. We're nearly finished. And from here to here, semitone. From here to here, semitone. From here to here, semitone. You get it, semitone, semitone, semitone. It's very important, and I know I'm repeating that over and over. and it may become a bit boring, but do stick with this because it's one of the major concepts of learning music theory. So all the way along the piano, made up of half steps. But let's talk about whole step. We spoke about in lesson 1 yesterday about whole and half. Now you can see a whole is made up of 2 halves. So if I started again at the D here and I wanted to go a whole step, where do you think we'll end up? Okay, let's start there. I want to do 2 halves, like 2 semitones or 2 half steps. So we'll start here, 1 half, 2 halves. That's a whole step made up of 2 halves. We also call it a tone. So half a step and half a step, look, they join together. So we're just going to, it's like moving 2. So we start on the D, half and another half, make a whole step. If I wanted to do another whole step, I'd start, keep there where you are. Now there's no black in between, so we're going to do another 2 halves, 1, 2. That from there is a whole step. Half and half together. Okay, we've done a whole step and another whole step. Whole, whole. Okay. Let's go back to what we were doing of halves. So whole, whole, we're there, and we'll do a half from there. Half. So we're on the G now. Let's do another whole, made up of 2 halves. So starting on the G, 1, 2, 2 halves, 1, 2. Let's do another whole one, and we're coming from the A, 1, 2, 2 halves. Okay, now this one's going to be slightly different. We're going to do another whole one, and we're coming again from the B. We're starting on the B. 1, 2. Look where we land. It's all about where we land. So we've gone 1, 2, 2 halves. 1, 2. Now we'll stay on there. Now the next one is just a half. So we're just going to come down 1. It's easier to call them, 1 as we were talking about halves. Now I'm going to repeat it over and over again, and I'm generally going to start talking about tones and semitones rather than whole step, and half steps. I think we've probably covered that enough without it becoming boring. Well, just a little recap. We'll pick at random. We'll say we'll start here, and I want to walk a whole step or a tone, any of these. So if we walked a tone from there, and the tone's made up of 2 halves, we're going to go 1, 2. We're going to land there. So it's where you start and where you land. 1, 2. Started there. 1, 2. We've landed there. From there we'll do a half step. Start here. 1. And we've landed there. From there we'll do another whole step. So 1, 2. We've landed here. Started there,